Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to YOUmedia Miami's Virtual Podcast. I'm RB, I'm one of the instructors here. And with everyone, we have...
Hello, everybody. I'm Chantel. I'm the specialist at Lemon City.
Raul, it's your boy Chris Miller. I know I'm here late, y'all.
What's up?
What's up, everyone? I'm Vianney. We always do that.
Go ahead.
And last staff, but not least.
Okay, I'm Vianney. I'm the specialist at the South Day Regional Library location.
Awesome. And we have...
Rachel. Hi, I'm the instructor at South Day Regional.
And welcome to our YOUmedia podcast. We have a very special guest with us today. I'm not going to give all of her details, but she's an awesome digital journalist, and she has an awesome website. Without further ado, we have Miss Janey with us. How you doing today?
Hey, thank you for having me. Hey, everybody. I am the founder, editor, publisher of Hilo News, and I'm happy to join you guys today.
That's awesome. So today is a general discussion, an interview with our special guest. We do this every Friday or every couple times when we get here. Janey runs a... Go ahead, actually tell them everything that you do. You know, I'm not going to get all into it.
Got a couple of things in the fire. But yeah, I started my own blog back in 2015, Hilo News, and I've worked in journalism and media for the last 10 years in the South Florida market, from Miami Herald, Miami Times, iHeartMedia, 103.5 The Beat. I've probably been published in every publication in South Florida, from Sun Sentinel, Palm Beach Post, MIA, and Legacy Magazine. And for me, working in the newsroom, I discovered that our stories weren't being told. I always had to fight and justify Black stories, minority stories. And so for me, I was getting frustrated, and I always wanted to start my own publication, but I really saw the need for it when I worked in newsrooms. And so that's where Hilo News was born. And it is South Florida's only blog dedicated to urban millennials. And we cover everything from politics, entertainment, events, also funny content. I like to do a lot of lists as well on my site. I got an article called 12 Things That Mean You Could Catch These Hands If You're from Miami. And so I do like funny things as well. I like to mix the candy and the medicine or whatever, or the medicine and the candy. Like, it's a balance of the two. But I also have op-eds from politicians. I'll cover government meetings or issues that's going on in the community and things that we should know. And yeah, I've been doing it full time now for a year. I left my job, my good job at iHeartMedia, decided to take that jump into entrepreneurship, and I've been loving it. It has its ups and downs, but it's definitely something I wouldn't trade for the world.
That's lit. That's lit. So you have a real long history in journalism, about 10 years of it. So before those 10 years, what made you really get into journalism in the first place?
I kind of stumbled into it. I was in college and I was studying business finance, and I could not pass the college algebra class. So I was like, you know what, girlfriend, let's go to this counselor and see what major that I can totally avoid this class. And communications and journalism was one of them. So when me and this guy, we were both failing the class, and we were like, let's switch over to communications. And I've always liked writing. I've always liked talking and having information. I just never thought of myself as being a journalist. And once I went to the school and learned more about it, I was like, okay, I could do this. And then I fell in love with journalism once I got my internship at the Miami Herald and CBS Miami. And that's, you know, where that love for writing and journalism came in. But before this, I never grew up thinking I wanted to be a journalist. I wanted to be a realtor or something in business and finance. And I kind of found my way back to business in this way that's interesting, but I never thought TV or media or journalism, anything like that growing up.
That's lit.
That's interesting. So fun fact, I also interned at the Miami Herald, but so you have a much better experience there, but awesome. I'm so grateful for that time. But quick question, like, is there anyone in journalism that you still admire or that you admired? Is there anyone that you almost constantly look up to and set your standards?
Yeah, I always say journalists are my rock stars. Like I meet them and I fangirl and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Roland Martin. Oh my gosh, that's Don Lemon. That's Audra Birch. For me, like my mentor and someone I met when I was interning at the Miami Herald is Audra Birch. And I love her as a reporter. Um, she now writes and is enterprise reporter for the New York Times, and I follow her work closely, call her all the time, ask for tips and advice. Another one that I like is, I'll say, I guess I could go old school. I like Barbara Walters as well. Like I read her book and a lot of things that she went through. And I'm trying to think of the columnist. His name is escaping me right now. He's a national columnist for the Miami Herald and all these different newspapers. But for some reason, his name, I can't get him. He's a Black guy, and I love his column. So those are the people that I say I look up to a lot. And also, I like some of the independent media, or maybe like just reporters. I like Nadege Green from WLRN. I met her when I was interning at the Miami Herald. I love Very Smart Brothers, Damon and Panama Jackson. They run it. Their blog got picked up by the Griot. So those are people that I constantly watch their work and see and pull from. And I like some of the YouTube people as well, the commentators like Funky Dineva, T.S. Madison. I like, it's a mix of the type of content that I like. It's, the bougie and the ratchet, Charlemagne the God, Angela Yee. I love radio as well. So it's a mix of different personalities that I really look to like constantly, and I'm looking to see what their perspective is on issues.
Yeah.
Nice.
Excellent. So I'm curious to know what pushed you to make that jump to found your own blog, High Low News.
I think the initial jump, like back in 2015, it started as like Facebook posts, me just testing it out. Back in 2010, I had the idea. I was like, I want to do something, wasn't really sure. And then in 2015, I did a few articles and put it out just to see if people would actually rock with it. And they did. But the official jump into entrepreneurship happened. Honestly, I was depressed at iHeart. It was a fun job. It was one of those jobs. I was doing media sales. It was one of those jobs, like if you stay there too long, that's what you're gonna end up doing for the rest of your life. And so I remember just feeling like unfulfilled. I felt like I wasn't really using what I was passionate about, all of my talents. I wasn't feeling like fulfilled to my ultimate potential. And I remember just like, it got to the point where I would sit in my car and cry for about 30 minutes before I walked into the job. And I was like, okay, you got to get out of here because you're going to be severely depressed. And I started going to therapy and doing that internal work. And I built up the courage maybe like a year and a half later to actually make that jump and say, okay, this is the freest and youngest you're going to ever be to take this chance. You're not married, you don't have any kids. You got a little bit of, money saved. Let's just go for it and see what happens. And you can always come back to this job because you have the experience. And so I decided to do that. And yeah, I've been rocking with High Lows for the last year.
All right.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Inspiring us all.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Of course.
Chris, you're muted if you're trying to ask the question.
Yeah, my bad. Could I ask, so how does it feel to be your own boss? How does it feel to, you're running things. It depends on you, how everything turns out. How is that?
It is being a digital media owner, especially in this space, in this time, it has its ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster. Like some days I'm up, I'm high, I'm like, yes, I closed this advertiser. Yes, the views are good. And then other times it's like, can you come take me out of this closet? I'm in the dark by myself crying because nothing is working. So I don't know. I think as a journalist too, you feed off of that pressure. Like you like that, and that, I don't know, I like that. Like I like when I'm on deadline, when I'm pushing myself. It has its ups and downs, but I really enjoy it. And every time I try to like say, okay, F it, I'm gonna go back and get a job, or I'm gonna just leave this alone, like something just pulls me back. It's just like, I enjoy doing this. Like I can binge and write articles for like 18 hours straight. Like that's how much I love it. And I think Oprah calls it like that sweet spot. Like it's like when you Like it's a zone you get. I think creatives get it. It's like you hit a zone where nothing matters. Like you can just
in there.
Flow. Like I'm not eating, I'm not moving, I'm just writing, I'm creating, I'm doing this stuff. And that's when I knew I was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like I could do this for free for the rest of my life. That's how I knew it was my passion. So to do it full time is cool. It definitely has its ups and downs, but I wouldn't trade it.
Nice.
Excellent. So you said earlier, and it's even on your website, that your site is South Florida's news for millennials. Why do you think it's important for millennials and people of Generation Z to have their own news outlet?
I think it's important because we're the next wave. We're millennials and combined with Gen Z, like we have the largest generation, the largest population in this country, and possibly the world. We outnumber baby boomers. And what I was noticing too in traditional newsrooms, that we weren't reading, we weren't showing up to meetings. Like I covered local government for a long time, and I was like, this stuff affects us. But I also noticed that nobody wants to read the newspaper or watch the traditional news. Like if they're not speaking their language. And so for me, I just felt like if somebody doesn't take the initiative to inform us in a way that we can digest it and understand it, then we're going to be lost in a lot of policy issues, especially on the local and state level. Like we're just not going to know about it, and it's going to affect us in a negative light, in a negative way. And so for me, I'm like, I want to do this. I have to do this. It's just too many of us, and literally the future is in our hands. Like the decisions we make today will affect generations, but you need to have that information and you need to understand it. And so if I know how to do that, if I know how to read an agenda and tell you, okay, this item affects you this way, or if I can tell you, hey, I endorse this candidate because X, Y, Z, then I feel like it gives you more information to make a better decision. And it's in a way that you can understand it. It's not boring. It's not stush. It's not stuffy. Like I just started doing YouTube videos. I call it the Roundup, and I'm just breaking down news of the day, news of the week in a way that I feel that millennials would and understand it and take it in. And then also I had the Trapping Ain't Dead podcast. Right now we're in hiatus, but that was something else that me and James Mungeon created to also break down issues and topics going on in South Florida when it came to policy and government.
That's lit.
Beautiful.
Rachel, I think you have a question.
So what are some of the ways, once they get information, I know there's probably a lot of different ways, but what are some of the ways that you see millennials specifically taking action to make an impact in their community, maybe in a way that's even different from baby boomers, or is it the same ways that baby boomers would go about doing that?
Are you saying like what action should they take once they get the information?
Mm-hmm.
Or I think it's a combination of what baby boomers did. Like they're definitely the generation that kind of like spoke truth to power. But for us, a lot of things are digital. So I say flood people's social media pages. Like I see a lot of that. I see the reposting, that's things that people could do. But I also feel like we can't forget the traditional process of how things are going down. Like you still have to show up and vote, or, you have to take some action. Like that's just the way the system is right now. Like there's no way around it. And so I see some people are into it, but not enough. It's not enough to affect enough change. And so I do like seeing the social engagement of it all, but I'm hoping that millennials and Gen Zers will take that next step and say, hey, I'm going to vote in every election, not just the presidential ones or the popular ones, like, because your city council, your state rep, your state senator, that stuff affects you way more drastically than the presidential election. Not that it's not important, but you're going to see the immediate effects of something that your councilman does. Like that's literally your street lights, your parks, your roads, the programming, the resources for small businesses, the programs at your parks. Little League is tied to that. We're a big sports state in Florida. Like a lot of those things are affected from your local government, your state government. So I see the stuff on digital. I love it. Keep sharing, keep blasting them on social media, but also take it a step further with your voting, and also showing up to a city meeting or a county meeting sometimes and speaking in person as well. Like bring those same numbers to a meeting.
That's lit.
Come to a meeting.
Yeah, show up.
They're not
I
that
mean,
bad.
I see the Dream Defenders do that sometimes. I will say that they'll show up. I see certain groups they'll show up to meetings, and that makes a huge statement. But I need to see a little bit more consistency, especially for more issues that affect us. It just can't be, these one-offs. Like, we got to get a little bit more consistent with it.
Definitely.
Chris?
Chris?
I think one of you had a question.
I think Chris had a question.
I didn't have a question. Say, I looked at the website and I remember reading about the drive-through. I don't know who was hosting it, but they were giving free food. I was like, bro, what? How come I didn't know about this? And I'm so serious.
In Overtown.
In Overtown, yeah, I would have went through. I would have, what? I need some free food for the fam.
Yeah. So chefs were doing that, like big time chefs. I'm like, that was good food.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna continue to June 3rd, but it stopped because of what's been going down recently, right? But yeah, I just find, a lot of people, they don't know certain things that's happening in their community. And I know you're, reaching to the youth. And it sounds like, I'm gonna kind of answer the question, but I'm gonna ask you, what's the message you want them to get? What type of information you see that they usually are not getting? And it sounds like you definitely want to encourage them to be more active with the community, probably with politically in a sense, like, hey, vote or whatnot. But is there, anything else that you want them to be informed of, aware about?
Yeah, but I think that's a great example, like you said, with the chefs. They were giving away free food in Overtown. Like, information like that is just more so to inform people. Like, that's what I want them to take away when they come to my site or see the stories I post on social. The onus is on me right now to expand and grow the website and make sure that I can have more of an impact digitally, and so that more people can see it. So you're not reading it, Chris, after the fact and like, damn, I didn't know this was going on. And so that's on me to grow the platform, but that's definitely something too. It's not, just only politics. Like, it's also just good information. It could be a screening for an independent Black-owned a filmmaker who's having a screening. Like, I want you to know that that's happening too. It could be a new business that's opening up, Black-owned business, or it's not. And for me, it's not just only Black-owned too, because South Florida is a melting pot. So that's why I say urban millennials, because I don't want people to think that Latinx stories won't make it into my blog. Like, it's definitely Black focused, but I just feel like if you speak that Black urban language in South Florida, if you understand that our culture and you identify with it, you definitely have a place on my website. But it's those stories as well. Like, it could be something going on in Hialeah that I feel like may not get mainstream coverage, that people should go to a street festival or event there. So it's those things too. It's not just, like I said, it's not just the politics for me. It's also information that if you did pitch it to the Miami Herald or sometimes the Miami Times, like, they don't have the space or the time to cover it. I want you to know that Hilo News will cover it, and that we have the space. Like, digitally, it's endless. Like, I don't run out of space. It's not a newspaper. So as many stories as I could put up, as many that I will.
So let me backtrack a little bit, because people get their news from like various different outlets, right? Like, I'm a TV junkie. I can sit down and watch the news for like 6 straight hours without a problem. How do you get your news?
Oh, how do I consume it? Mainly right now is social media and YouTube. So then I had to start watching a lot of TV news because it was making me depressed. So I'll watch it. If it's something that I really want to see, I'll go and I'll make sure I tune into it, but it's not my first go-to. But I do make sure I keep alerts and notifications for all the news networks, like especially South Florida. So from SVN, Channel 10, all of those stations, like, I'm definitely in tune with their social media posts, and I'm reading those daily. And then sometimes if I need to, like, if I want to watch a newscast, I will go watch it on TV, but mainly social media is the way. And then I also get a lot of newsletters. Like, I make sure I sign up for all their newsletters so it comes to me directly too.
That's lit.
I have a question. So during your educational studies in journalism and your career, what were some great pieces of advice mentors gave to you? Because we have a lot of teens who are interested in going in that direction.
I'll say some good advice that I got from professors and mentors when I was in college was to intern, to get as much experience as you can, to do a lot of different types of internships. So when I was in college, I did internships, like I said, at the newspaper, also a TV station. I did a PR internship. I did a local, like, community newspaper internship. Like, I was trying to be everywhere and understand it all. And then also, because there's this thing about paying interns right now, but for me, coming up 10 years ago, like, you paid your dues. Like, and honestly, I was honored to work for CBS and intern for them for free. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, yes, I'll come in here for free and do what you tell me to do. And you know, within reason, some people try to take advantage of interns, but if you get a good internship, sometimes it's not always about the money, it's about that experience. And I'm liking that too, that the tide is turning a little bit too, where corporations are seeing that they should pay or give some people stipends. Like, I love that too, so keep that going. But as of right now, if you could get an internship with someone and they may not be paying, maybe make that sacrifice, because that experience is valuable. And for me, a lot of those internships and a lot of things that I did, like, I still could call my editor from the Miami Herald and ask her for something or get a recommendation. Like, it just really strengthened my relationships. And that's really, honestly, in media, that's all that's the strongest thing you got. Like, I tell people, there's probably not a reporter or at a publication that I can't call and, like, I can get something from them because of those relationships. And a lot of times small businesses or nonprofits will hit me up and say, hey, I've been trying to reach Jill Tracy. I've been trying to get somebody at the Miami Times or Miami Herald. Can you help me? And I'm like, oh yeah, I know such and such. Let me call them right quick. So it's just keeping those relationships. And it helps you too with jobs, depending on if you want to stay, if you don't want to go the entrepreneurial route, if you want to, you know, work for a publication or a media outlet, having those relationships intact really go a long way with somebody co-signing you and saying, hey, you should hire, you know, Jimmy or Paula or whoever, because I know them from interning for me and this is the type of work that they did.
That makes sense. I
Very
agree.
good information. Thank you.
That's lit. I think Rachel has the next question.
I do have a question. I don't know, I feel like you kind of touched this, but this is something that I've noticed too, with the social media information generation, and also with celebrity culture. We are more getting things we are following people's social media. And I've noticed, like, even with like very like publications that are just for image or certain models, influencers, they will post and say, you know, I use my image and modeling and everything to talk about issues and inform people about things that care to me. Is there kind of a drawback with that kind of mentality where we could also, we need people who are full-time thinking about issues and writing about things, rather than getting information just from celebrities, just from models, just from influencers? And how can we, moving forward, try to kind of balance out what is a good source and what could be maybe a gateway source? I don't know if that's a loaded question, but I don't know if I really phrased that correctly.
No, I get what you're saying. I think it's a great question. It's interesting because I actually posted something like this on my social the other day about influencers and celebrities. And to me, I think it's a relationship that I think should be cultivated a little bit more, massaged a little bit more, or grow a little bit more between influencers and celebrities and people, journalists or columnists or commentators, social commentators who have more of more information on social issues. So for example, I do think that celebrities should be a little bit more inclined and more in tune with what's going on in the news or socially, because they do have the ear of the people. I think that you should slightly educate yourself. Don't be Trina out here. Don't be Simone out here. Like, don't be tone deaf. But it will go a long way for, say, a group. Let's just say the Quiet Riot group, for somebody like, and actually this did happen. JT from the City Girls reposted them. She didn't go on and give a whole dissertation about what she thinks about social issues. She just found a group, saw what they were about, and reposted it. And it's just a simple thing as that I think influencers, like, they don't really understand their influence in that way. I'm not telling you to go get a law degree. I'm not telling you to become a senator. I'm just telling you to, hey, if somebody's in your hometown or an issue that you care about, just do a little bit of research on it, and you could just simply repost and say, I support this. And it could be that. It doesn't have to be something so deep. I also do think that people need to understand that there is a value in somebody, you know, spending time with these type of issues and being educated on it, and having years of experience of, you know, taking the information and putting it back out there for people to understand it, where, you know, where journalists are concerned, or intellectuals or professors or people who speak on certain issues. Like, there's a value in that. And I think it may come from maybe school. I don't know if people are taught in school, like, okay, this is a source, this isn't a source. Maybe that may need to be something that's taught maybe even in grade school, you know, starting early with middle schoolers or maybe elementary school kids, because they're picking up technology quicker than we did. So that may be something that they need to learn. Like, okay, yeah, it's cool that, you know, Cardi B posted this, but she's not a reporter. Maybe you need to understand that she got this from this way, and she's an influencer, but she's maybe not the best source for every piece of news that you get. And I think that may just have to be a cultural thing that we gotta kind of foster for younger people.
Yeah. So there's this popular saying that goes out, right? People say that knowledge is power. So it's a two-part question. Do you believe that saying? And if so, what makes an individual powerful in your perspective?
Yeah, definitely knowledge is power. Like, and in this country, the way our capitalism is set up, like, that's probably like the only power that we do have. If you weren't born with the silver spoon and you don't come from money, like, the knowledge that you gain is like your power in it, and that adds to the value of things that's in your war chest, that I call it. So for example, like, I can go into a city and know that if I want to start a business, I know who to speak to, I know zoning, I know council people, I know how the government structure works. So I have that knowledge so that I'm better prepared to do what I need to, versus I see a lot of small businesses who just go out and start and don't even know where to begin. So information like that is very helpful to have. So knowledge is going to always be power. Like, to me, that's the great equalizer. Like, a smart person, a person who's informed, is going to always win to me.
So here's a second question, because when people get that knowledge, right, and like in your case, you got the knowledge, you did the research, you reposted, you write your opinion pieces on it. So is it possible for like anybody to just like start a website? And if so, how did you start yours?
Yeah, WordPress has a free account. Like, that's how I started my blog, with the free WordPress account. So you can definitely start one. You could start it through your social media pages if you just want to, you know, do long form writing. So you could definitely, to me, I feel like it's a really good age if you want to be in this space, if you want to be in media and in journalism and be a storyteller, be a journalist, that you have a lot of resources available to you for free. For me, I started, like I said, on WordPress.com. They had a free website version that I started with 5 years ago. And that's how I got started. It was very easy to understand. Also, I think Blogger at the time was something that I had like a couple of those, but that was because of college. They made us do it as assignments. So I see in a lot of journalism schools, like, that's a part of the coursework, like starting a website, starting a blog. So if you go to school for it, like, they're definitely going to train you on how to do that. Like, I don't know how to code. That's not in it, but just learning the back end of how that stuff works, like, you learn that in journalism school. But I think YouTube has everything now. If you want to get started now, you can.
Yeah, I use Wix. Wix is lit for my website. It's just like
Nice.
Yeah,
drag and drop for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you said WordPress, I was like, all right, it's time to end the podcast. No, I'm joking.
WordPress is great.
Don't do WordPress.
I had WordPress. I use Squarespace.
Yeah, it's time for you to
all
go
of those
to.
are good sites, I think, and they all have like free accounts that you can start on.
Yep.
But from what I've heard in my research, like WordPress is really good for blogs, like if you doing a lot of writing.
Yeah.
I have a question. So I'm not trying to get all in your business.
Get all in, it's good.
I'm just curious to know, and I'm sure the teams will want to know when they start their websites, what are some ways you can make money from creating your own website?
Oh, okay. So a big part of the reason why I love working at iHeart, because it was a media company and I did media sales. So it gave me a crash course in how that business worked, like how they make money. So there's a couple of ways digitally that you can make money. Direct sales is one. So that's you. Let's say you go to, a small business and you say, hey, this is what my numbers are. That you create an ad package for them. That could be a digital ad that you place on your website, or if you create a newsletter, or if you want to sell real estate on your social media, like you could do that directly and you can control the price. Then also there's plugins from Google Analytics. I think WordPress has them. I think a lot of the website has them, but there are AdSense is one that you could put plugins on your website and you could get money for them that way. Then also too, you can get them from social media. YouTube and Facebook have monetization programs. Like if there are requirements that you have to meet in order to get them, I think YouTube is 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 views, and then Facebook is like something like 10,000 likes and like 13,000 views. You could Google it and see what the exact number is, but there are different ways to monetize your digital content. But the quickest way, if you want to, because it's some time to build up to that. And also with your website too, like to see a good piece of change, you got to have at least like 50 to 100,000 monthly views. So if you want to see money right away, it could be you like doing direct sales. Like I said, like packaging up your website, knowing what your numbers are. Like that's the most important thing with your digital sites, like knowing how many viewers, what your engagement is, what your followers are on social media, and selling that to an advertiser. And so that's the quickest way to get money.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's good.
That's lit.
You have a hat. Do you have a shop on your
I
website?
don't. I'm natural. I cut my hair off in March when the pandemic just started, and I need a haircut. So I had to do something today for you kids because I didn't want to look crazy. So if you see me wearing a hat, that means my hair is not done. that is what this hat was a gift from a friend. And so if I've been doing my Zoom videos and interviews, and I'm like, well, let me just throw on the hat, have some, branding. One day I'm going to do merch. Right now I'm not doing it, but that would be cool.
You should. That's actually.
I'm like, who want a Hello News anything? Like, who want that?
You sleep. People buy CNN shirts and all kinds of stuff.
That's true. But that's another way to make money as well. I see a lot of people selling merch as well. And then also too, sponsored posts, like partnerships. So for example, I think with the North Miami, they had a music festival in February. So you could do those like discount codes, and they give you revenue sharing for how many tickets you sell. So if you have a decent audience, that's another way to make money digitally as well.
Yeah, that's lit.
I have a question. I think you touched on it a little bit, but how do you know the information that you're getting and posting is credible or factual? Especially with, it's a trend now to say, wait, what do we say? Fake media?
Yeah, fake news.
Fake news. There you go. Fake news. So how do you know what's real? And how do you keep the news that you're sharing? How do you know if it's credible, real? Yeah.
It's not from Fox.
So that's the thing. That's the divide that you have with, like, I guess, digital creators who didn't go to journalism school, don't have that any background, versus the people who do. Because for me in school, it was always check your sources, check your facts. Like you just can't say something without attributing it to something. And so for me, it's researching it. It is citing is something, also knowing what a credible source is. So for example, I'm going to trust something a little bit more coming from CNN versus, some random blog that I see. And then also too, you attribute stuff. Like, you just don't say it is what it is. Like, I just can't say, Chris was sitting in front of a wood fence. I have to say, from a conversation I had, Chris said he was like, I have to give that to something. Like, you have to cite stuff. You just can't say something if it's journalism. And then also too, looking at people, you could just do a quick search on someone's page. You could see how many, like, what type of content they have. Is it slanted? You can always telling what something is, if it's an opinion or if they have sources. Generally, the rule of thumb is like 2 sources, two quotes from someone to have credibility. Also too, I'm going to trust someone from University of Miami Medicine if I'm doing a piece on something in the medical field versus somebody I just found on the corner who can't give me any credentials. So credentials is something else that helps you make a source credible or make your pieces credible. But it's something like, can you prove it? Like, if somebody just tells me, yeah, I did this, but I can't find any certificates, any degrees, nothing that backs up what you're saying. And that's the issue that a lot of times digital creators, they run into. They just say this is what it is, but they don't ever cite or do any research to see where this information is coming from. Whereas with me, it just won't sit. Like, I can't do that. Like, I have to cite, I have to research, I have to make sure what this is credible.
Yeah. So my auntie won't be like a good medical person to talk
If your auntie's not a doctor or a nurse or somebody who has medical experience, I'm never going to say. And here's the thing, I think there's a way around quoting stuff. So for example, if your aunt has an opinion, I have to say that's her opinion. I can't say she's a medical person. I can't, put that out as something that's credible and say like she's a medical professional. I can say I spoke to Miss Nickerson and she had these views. These are her views, but I can't say this is what the medical industry is saying is the standard for whatever she's saying.
Yeah. So here's a funny piece. I was just reading something yesterday on Twitter and people were saying that, like, because from what you're saying, right, like if you write a piece, it has to be fact. Chris told me himself, and I was on a video call and I seen Chris sitting in front of that wooden fence under a tent. Rachel told me herself on a FaceTime call that she was wearing a white shirt. So, because those are undisputable facts. So is it okay for a reporter to have an opinion?
That's interesting. And so this is something that I struggled with when I first started my blog, and I did a lot of research on this, because you're not supposed to have an opinion. You're supposed to be objective, and just report the facts. I'm just supposed to present it to you and you make your decision. Leonard Pitts, that's the guy who I was saying is a rock star that I like, but he has a column and he's a journalist, but he gives his opinion. So I think it depends on what type of story you're doing. So what I had to do on my blog is I'm really clear and I say, this is an opinion piece. This is a column. I'm very clear on that. And if it's an article where I'm just presenting facts and just letting the reader decide what it is, I'll make that clear as well. Traditionally, in traditional news organizations, you're not supposed to have an opinion. You're just supposed to present facts. I remember when Trayvon Martin was going on, and I was in college at that time. I couldn't sign petitions. I couldn't put out, how I felt about the issue, because we're not supposed to do that as a journalist. Like, you're supposed to be biased, because what if I had to interview somebody who was pro George Zimmerman and what he did? I have to, have an appearance of that. I would, conduct that interview in a fair way. I know I would. I know now that you can do it, but I think in traditional media sites it's frowned upon and you shouldn't do it. So as an independent journalist, yes, you can have an opinion. I think you should let it be clear when you do when you are speaking from an opinion point of view versus a journalistic point of view. But if your goal is to work in traditional media, if you want to go work for CNN, if you want to go work for the New York Times, I would say make sure you craft your social media and what you say in a way that won't make you seem like you're going to be biased toward future sources or people that you interview.
That's lit. We got time for one more question.
Yep, that's real important. And we have a Khalil. We have a guest that's he's listening.
Hey, Khalil.
Yeah, he's been on from the very beginning.
Sorry,
we got a note from his mom saying that, you know, he really loves to write and he's taking journalism class this summer. So that's why, that's why he's here.
Cool.
So
we need more of you. Oh my gosh.
Right. I think it's very important what you mentioned about the sources, because I'm still having to share that with people. Like, you don't take the first thing that you read. That is very important in journalism. Like, everything's fact checked, everything's double, triple, 4 or 5 sources if you can. The better, the more the better. That's just how that is. So I hope, Khalil, you're getting some really, really good tips on here. Because
yeah. Sorry,
Khalil,
oh, he's here.
Yeah. We got time for one more question, so we can give you the last question if you like.
Sure. Come on.
Hey, Khalil.
Give you the last 2. Get 2 questions.
I'm not really sure if I have any. I think I don't know. I think what you said was pretty clear. You explained everything pretty well. Like what you have to, not what you have to do, but what you should do, and what a journalist should do, fact checking, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And are you looking into any internships, Khalil? Did you hear that piece?
Yeah.
Very good.
That's lit. So I think we can wrap it up for today. This was a very great discussion. For those who are watching this in post-production on YouTube, go ahead and type in a bunch of heart comments for our guest speaker today, Janey.
Thank you for having me.
Chris actually has one more.
Of course.
Quick question. So where can we follow you on social media?
Oh, thank you, Chris. On social media, everything is Hilo News. That's HYLONEWS. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and LinkedIn. And then my personal page is Janey Tate. That's JANEYTATE. And I'm on, all the places, all the things. It's interesting that you guys brought up internships. I'm actually in the process now of creating an internship with my blog. And so I definitely will want to share that information once I get all the details in place. And I work with high school students and college students, or just people who may just want to get into the business and want to get their foot in the door and get some learning and training. So once I get all those details, I'm definitely going to share it with you guys, and you can share it with your channels and your students.
Khalil. So you got to stay close, man. We got you with that internship.
Right. You in the door right now.
Oh yeah, Khalil, let's go.
Right. All right. Well, that's all for today. Listen, drop those hearts for Janey, our special guest for today. It was great having you. Awesome discussion. We're going to be back here Monday for our new podcast. Same place, same time. Go ahead and DM us at YOUmedia Miami on all the social media. This has been great. Happy weekend to you all. See you next week.
Thanks for coming by, Janey.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
Khalil.
you.